this video on the Gary Lineker fiasco. I really do appreciate it. Now, what I'm going to do on this video is I'm going to detail the complete mess of this sort of thing. I'm going to detail to you why the BBC had to back down. They had no choice. I'm going to explain Gary Lineker's absolute hypocrisy on this, why he was absolutely wrong to quote the Nazis, why the left are not the correct people to deal with this. I'm also going to detail, well, being a UK born and raised second generation Indian, I'm the son of two legal immigrants, so I know more about the immigrant lifestyle than Lineker ever will because I've lived it. I'm also going to detail what the difference between these so-called refugees and a genuine refugee, and what we should be doing about immigration. So sit back, relax for a couple of minutes, and I'll detail all this. First things first, how to put this. The BBC, I mean, BBC had to back down completely after what Lineker wrote on his Twitter. I'll explain why. Our forefathers bled, fought and died for the right to freedom of speech in the Second World War against the Nazis. Freedom of speech is a fundamental right. Now, there was actually a landmark case in the European Court of Human Rights on this. It's a case of Steele and Morris versus the United Kingdom, commonly known as the McLibel judgment. Lineker has obviously taken legal advice on this. Now, he's on something like about £1 million a year from the BBC, and had they got rid of him because of his tweets, I can assure you they would be facing an indefensible lawsuit in the courts, which they wouldn't be able to defend in any way, sense or form. The McLibel judgment states very clearly that public debate on any issue must not be stifled. It's a long recognised legal principle that governments cannot, local and central governments cannot sue for libel because that inhibits free speech. And the McLibel judgment also demonstrates that multinationals and big institutions should actually fulfill the same thing, for simple reason because of their financial resources. So basically, the BBC had no choice. Now, Lineker was wrong to mention the Nazis for one simple reason. If you look at the history books, a quick Google search will tell you this. Nazi is an abbreviation for National Socialist. If you look at Jeremy Corbyn's manifesto, the 2019 general election, and you look at Adolf Hitler's manifesto when he was running for power, you'll be quite shocked at the similarities. I'm going to absolutely shock you now, but the greatest genocidal killers of the 20th century were all socialists. And I can say this with quite some authority because I am the grandson of the ultimate champagne socialist. I'll come on to champagne socialist in a minute. In fact, let me tell you about this. Socialists fall in two categories. Either one, they are champagne millionaire socialists, or two, they are broke idiots. And I say to every socialist, look in your bank account to see which one you are. I'm the grandson of the ultimate champagne socialist. In fact, I remember once he took his family from India. He was my late grandfather was a very prominent member of the Indian Communist Party. And he once took his family to, the whole family, to Eastern Europe for a pilgrimage to see how the joys of communism and socialism. They were back in 2 weeks. It made me laugh about that. Anyway, that's the first thing, the champagne socialist. But the greatest genocidal killers of the 20th century were all socialists. And I'll go through the list. There was obviously Adolf Hitler, leader of the German Democratic National Socialist Party. There was actually Joseph Stalin, the general secretary of the Russian Communist Party. There was Erich Honecker, the general secretary of the German, Socialist Party. There was Nicolae Ceausescu from Romania, Pol Pot, the general secretary of the Cambodian Communist Party, and there's also Chairman Mao, who was obviously the general secretary of the Chinese Communist Party. Need I say any more? The hypocrisy comes is when Gary Lineker talks about these refugees. He says, well, they're not refugees. I'll come on to that in a minute. What happens here is he was quite happy to take money from the during the World Cup from the Qatari authorities. Bear in mind, hundreds of thousands of migrants in Qatar were basically died during the building of the stadiums. And Qatar has a horrible human rights record, but he was quite happy to take money off them, but now he's speaking about these migrants. I'll come to them in a minute. It smacks of hypocrisy. In fact, not only did he, Alan Shearer, and all these others, they took a lot of money for this. Now, let's talk about these migrants coming across the channel. These are not refugees. They are economic freeloaders, and I can tell you this for nothing because when last time I was in India, I can tell you here and now, it's a very, very common open business that what they do, they get people to come across to the UK, marry a British citizen, claim all sorts of benefits, and send money back home. And because Britain's seen the soft touch of it, it's a very, very big business. If these were genuine refugees, where are the women and children? What are they fleeing from? If you're fleeing war, persecution, and all that sort of thing, you bring your wives and your children with you. You don't leave them behind. Most of these are soldier fit, fighting fit, soldier age young men. Where are the women and children? Okay, this brings me to the what do you call it? Well, first thing is I've got to mention to you the issue here. These fighting fit soldier men are being put up in 4- or 5-star hotels. They're getting free medical care. They're getting all the dental care. Many people can't get in to see their doctor or dentist, and they're getting benefits. We've got a cost of living crisis. These people going straight to the front of the queue. British people should come first. No wonder people are getting upset. But let me talk about what we should be doing about refugees. I'll give you my stance on immigration, and I'll detail what Donald Trump once said about my dad. My own view on immigration is very simple. Genuine political prisoner, no problem. Genuine asylum seeker, no problem. And on that basis, I find it reprehensible that the British government did not offer asylum to Asaya Bibi or Rahaf Muhammad. Asaya Bibi is a Pakistani Christian who was freed, who spent 10 years in prison for blasphemy charges. She was freed on appeal. She, her family, and her legal team were feared for their lives and had to flee Pakistan. Luckily, the Canadian government has taken them all in. It is great. However, we are a Christian country. We should have been the first to basically get her to the British Embassy, airlift her out, bring her to the UK, and say to her, "You're now safe. This is your home." Rahaf Muhammad is a Saudi Arabian woman who fled a forced arranged marriage. Luckily, the United Nations Council on Human Rights took her in, and the Canadian government offered her asylum. Great, but we should have done that. Britain has prided itself on the fight against forced marriage. We should have been the first to take her in. I give credit to the British government for taking in, and I've got to pronounce her name, Malala Yousafzai. She was a young lady who was shot in the head by the Taliban for advocating education for young girls. I was delighted to find out that she graduated from the University of Oxford, taking a degree in philosophy, politics, and economics. I was delighted to find out about that. So well done, the British government. I also give credit to the Danish government for taking in Nadia Nadim. Nadia Nadim was, at the age of 12, witnessed the trauma of seeing her father shot in the head and killed by the Taliban. She somehow made it to Denmark, where she grew up. She speaks 12 languages. She basically became a professional footballer. She scored 200 goals for her respective clubs, 2 for Denmark. And is now qualified as a doctor, is going on to become a surgeon. Refugees like this, as far as I'm concerned, are welcome all day long, all day, every day, because they go out of their way to positively contribute to the country that they give it refuge. Non-asylum seekers need to follow 6 criteria. Firstly, they must come legally. Secondly, they must have a reasonable command of the English language. They must respect British law. They must respect British culture. They must be able to positively contribute to our society. And my little thing, they must pass the cricket test. Now, you might be wondering, what do I mean by the cricket test? The cricket test means that when England plays their home country in the cricket, they've got to support England. Now, I get into a lot of trouble for saying that because I've got a family in India. Well, sort of. They don't speak to me anymore. But when they actually, England played them in the cricket, but I support England, they don't like it one little bit. But in terms of, let me give you an example of a proper, genuine immigrant who contributed. I'm being biased here. My dad came to the UK in 1969, the world's most devout Hindu. He arrived with £5 in his pocket. The following day, he started a pre-arranged job as a junior doctor in Queen Elizabeth Hospital, Woolwich. went on to become a GP, family doctor, and in many cases, the local GPs wouldn't do out-of-hours covers with him. Some hospital consultants wouldn't take his referrals. He plugged away. He exceeded all government targets. Now, the main thing is, he didn't have the appointment system. You turned up, you got seen. All patients with a long-term illness were seen every 3 months to keep their signs and symptoms under control. Most GPs refer about 4 patients to hospital a week. He referred about 4 a month. He was top of his game, and basically, how to put this, if the hospital consultants got a referral from him, they knew it was really, really serious. He exceeded all government targets. For example, for patients under the Tony Blair government, the target was that emergency patients seen in 3 days. That saw them the same day. For those of you who pick up a prescription from your local chemist after being ordered from a GP, it was my dad who started up that system. What actually happened was a local pharmacist came around, a Jewish guy. He wasn't getting any referrals from the local GP, so he said, send one of your girls around once a day about 12 o'clock. A patient would order prescription. They come round to your place. By the time it's already dispensed, it was my dad who started off that system. As you can see, I'm very proud of him. Those are genuine immigrants who we should be taking in every day. Now, I actually asked Donald Trump, this is before he ran for president, and he dropped a hint in that speech that he was going to run for president. And I said, if you were president of America, would you take in immigrants like my dad after telling him my story? And he said, if I'm going to make America great again, I need immigrants like your father. Those are the exact words from President Trump. So, as I said, in conclusion, Dave, it's been a complete mess, a complete fiasco. The left are not the right people to deal with it. We need to have more robust methods of getting rid of these migrants who are crossing the channel, because unfortunately, genuine refugees may slip through the net, and nobody has a problem with genuine refugees. I welcome your comments below, and I'll speak to you soon. Cheers. Bye-bye.